Father, take us through the idea of holding outside masses.
Well, as we started to strategically plan for phase one and the fact that we were in it, we had to try to figure out what's the best thing to do. Obviously, I have 3 worship sites. Here we are at St. Mary's. I've got Sacred Heart just down the road, and a few miles away we have St. Mark. So the number that we were stuck on was 40%. And then the more we processed it, we realized that, well, even though I initially thought, well, 220 people can be in this church building, the more we processed it, the more we realized, no, 220 is not the number, because when you actually think about the number in a party, say it's 5, say it's 3, say it's 1, to socially distance. So we actually became a bit more realistic and said, actually, we probably will only be able to accommodate 100 worshipers at St. Mary's, about 80 at Sacred Heart, and about 70 at, anywhere between 65 and 70 at St. Mark's. And I just said, wow, what a lot of work. And frankly, and it's not about the almighty dollar, but the expense, because it's not just cleaning the church. It's not just that soap and water. It's that powerful disinfectant that we must utilize. And so we started as a staff, both Father Jack and I were just bantering about, and we thought, gee, what about outside? And then the following day, we actually got directives or guidelines from the diocese saying, these are the things that you have to do, which we had already taken care of what we needed to do. But one of the options was for the outdoor mass, and I said, okay, that's what we have to do this. And the entire staff was on board from the get-go. Now, where do you do it? There's a lot of work, obviously, and here we are. We've got our new sanctuary, our temporary sanctuary, where the altar will be, where the ambo will be, a covering that's, my director of facilities, my facilities manager has said, this thing isn't going anywhere, so I'll trust him. We can actually now accommodate, if we can fit 60 cars, and say there are 5 people in a party, that's 300 people. It's a far cry from what I could actually accommodate had I opened all 3 church buildings. Plus, there's less hassle in terms of that disinfecting factor that we must. It's extremely important that we had to factor that in. So, is it going to work? I hope so. I'm a hope-filled person and hopeful. We're not going to know until we try. We've taken steps to make it as user-friendly as possible. We'll see.
How many masses will you offer this weekend?
So in our phase one, and this was greatly discussed with the parish staff, and we've decided that, so our regular mass schedule is we have the 4 o'clock at St. Mary's on Saturday, we have an 8 o'clock at St. Mark, we have a 9:30 at St. Mary, an 11 o'clock at Sacred Heart, and a 5 o'clock at Sacred Heart, excuse me. So we wanted to keep those, we wanted people to be comfortable with those times because it's something familiar to them. 8 o'clock is just way too early to accommodate and to facilitate, so that one was already off the table. But Catholics love that vigil mass. That 4 o'clock mass is something very special to us, so obviously that was going to be the one. And we went back and forth. Do we do that one online, or do we actually have an outdoor mass? So we're going to actually do the outdoor mass, and we're going to try, we'll do our best, to FaceTime live it at the same time. That's still a work in progress. We will celebrate online for those who do not feel comfortable, for those who do not want to come to church, and I totally understand that and respect people for that. We will continue our online presence, and then Sunday evenings we will have another outdoor mass here.
Communion. That's difficult.
It's going to be wonderful. So not only do I have to wear a mask, I have a face shield as well, because those droplets that's the thing. This contagion loves to just spread, with coughing and sneezing. And so for the time being, just to get people comfortable with the concept of receiving communion again, and again, anticipate massive crowds this weekend, especially this being the first weekend. But both Father Jack and I are going to be the only two, because I only have 2 shields. And we will be distributing. People will be asked to get out of their cars. Anyone in a car together, they're considered, that's one reservation, if you will. So they are together. When it's time to approach us, people have to still socially distance. They will come up to us. We're asking that people really open their hands, because there's no communion on the tongue. We will place the consecrated host in their hand. If we come into contact with them any way whatsoever, we will have a little ablution bowl and Purell or sanitizer, and we will quickly fix that so that the next person feels safe. So the person will come forward, receive communion, step several steps to the side, remove his or her mask, consume the host, put their mask back on, and then go back to their cars. And it's going to take a little longer than usual, that's for sure.
You mentioned the word reservations. Should people be calling in advance, or can they just show up that day?
They can just show up that day. There's a lot of property around here. People can stay in their cars. If people want to just walk to church and bring their own chairs, that's the most important thing, because I'm not responsible for cleaning or sanitizing your chair. They can set up, but they also have to remember that they have to bring a device by which they can hear the Mass through the radio.
And people simply turn on their radio. Correct. And they'll be able to hear everything?
Yep. I don't know the station yet. We're just looking for that, whatever is free at the time, and working with those who know those sorts of things, and we'll take it from there.
Across the diocese, how many people are doing outdoor masses?
Well, I only know of one other parish. That's he would be my classmate, Father Kevin Cook, the pastor of Our Lady Queen of Martyrs in Seekonk. He shares the same understanding that I have, that it is, first, it's cost ineffective or inefficient, it's laborious, and it's probably going to take 2.5 hours to totally clean and disinfect the church between services. Is this what we're going to do all weekend long? And how many masses do people think? I know that people have gone to church in the Archdiocese of Boston where they were actually celebrating masses last weekend, and we also had a Zoom meeting, all the priests of the diocese, with Bishop d'Acunha this morning. And I don't know if this is a correct number, because what I heard was far from 10%, but most parishes saw about 10% of their normal population attend Mass. I think that's a bit high from what I've heard, but that's what I was told.
And collections.
Yeah.
The church needs money.
The church needs money. Fortunately, people have continued to send in their financial donations. It's kind of like having a mortgage. This is the spiritual home. These are our spiritual homes, and I don't own them. The people do. One day I will no longer be the pastor here. I'll move on to another assignment, and people from North Attleboro will still be here. And not that I don't feel at home now, and I contribute financially to the life of this parish. I am a parishioner. I'm not only the pastor, I am a parishioner. But we have been instructed not to pass the basket. That's fine. We will have a receptacle somewhere, maybe one at the exit there, and we're trying to encourage people to use the rectory driveway to exit Park Street, as well as this main exit from the parking lot. And there'll be receptacles where people can distribute or leave their envelopes or collections that they'd like to give. But there's also the online option, which fortunately has proven to be beneficial and helpful.
Certainly sounds like you have everything covered.
I don't. Smoke and mirrors, Peter, smoke and mirrors.
Well, best of luck.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
The weather cooperates so people aren't watching Mass through their windshield wipers.
I know. I hope so too.
Thank you.
Thank you.